Okay, we're back with another exciting drum video. We got a good one for you today, I think. Maybe a song I would think most of you probably haven't heard of. You've heard of the drummer, for sure, or you should have, but I'm sure you've heard of the drummer. But really one of his best albums, I think, ever, and one of his earliest albums that maybe some people don't know about. But if you like the videos, and we got a lot of nice responses from the Gene Krupa video with the kind of Gene Krupa fill. I don't remember what it was, but it was a cowbell thing. You know how you can find out what it was? You can watch the video. Yeah, so like and subscribe to these videos, and I try to get them out once or twice a month. Sometimes I don't do such a good job. Other times, sometimes you might get 2 or 3 in a week. So you just kind of never know. It depends what life dictates, right? Anyway, so one of the great drummers of all time. I believe Modern Drummer magazine for 5 years in a row named him best all-around drummer back in the day. Maybe they're still doing their readers polls. I don't know. And then after 5 years, they kind of take you off the list. But for 5 years in a row, Steve Smith won Best All-Around Drummer, and that was probably because of his great work with Journey, but his great work with a lot of people, right? Obviously, his own band, Vital Information, and he did a lot of fusion stuff throughout his career, and really, Journey was one of the. I mean, he's done rock stuff, but Journey was obviously the group that made him famous. But he did an album with The Storm sometimes back, which was sort of an offshoot of Journey. Greg Raleigh was in that, the keyboard player from Journey. I think might have been even Ross Valerie in that, but the bass player. I'm not sure. But Steve did the studio album. Richie Kotzen, who was kind of a shredder guitarist, Steve did a session with him. And of course, one of the little-known CDs, or I had it on cassette, actually, hang on a minute, was a Jeff Berlin cassette CD with had double drums with him and Neil Peart, however you want to say it. But it had Steve Smith and Neil Peart. So, which is kind of cool, too. But most of his stuff was in the realm of sort of jazz fusion. He played with Steps Ahead for a long time. But a lot of people know him from Journey. But even before Vital Information, there's the first album that I picked up in a record store probably back in the, mid-'80s. The first Vital Information album. It was sort of going back to his jazz days, coming from Journey. But before Journey, he was at Berklee, obviously. Some of you may know, may not know. He went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. And then right out of there, he got a job with this guy, Jean-Luc Ponte. And he did an album called I don't know how to say it, Enigmatic Ocean, and probably Enigmatic Ocean. I don't know what that means. I don't know if he knows what it means. But anyway, great album. One of my favorite Ponte albums. There's a couple tracks on there, but the drumming's spectacular throughout. Alan Holdsworth's on that album as well. It's just really a list of tremendous fusion players, before they were probably super popular. But I think Holdsworth was on that. I want to say he was. But a lot of great shredding fusion guitar. But Steve Smith's drum stuff on it is great. And there's, again, listen to the whole record. But in particular, I remember when I listened to it the first time, this particular rhythm came up. And I'm not going to play it now because, again, I don't want the copyright thing. It seems to be working out well where I play stuff at the end. Then if there's a copyright problem, I just cut that part out. But this particular rhythm, which I'm going to put up on the screen right there, jumped out at me. So I'm listening to the record, okay? And then this is Enigmatic Ocean Part 2. First off, it starts off on beat 3 and 4 with this drum fill. Pretty easy. So it's always harder when your stick goes in the cowbell. I don't know if that's a difficult thing to start the fill with the stick in the cowbell. Not good. Keep it above the cowbell. Okay, starts off with this fill. Okay, and then it goes into this what I like to call kind of a classic fusion pattern, right? We all know the classic like rock pattern, the old AC/DC, or whatever. Right? This pattern for me, it kind of signifies that fusion style. So it starts off with, and it goes into this, as you can see on the screen, this 16th note groove. Pretty easy, but the speed, again, it's about 160 beats a minute, so it clips along. It requires you to get down your ghost notes with your left hand pretty good in order to make the groove sound clean. But it's pretty easy. It's just one and beat one, and two and right, one and three and backbeat, four. We got a backbeat somewhere, right? Four and another tap. Four and right. So we got four. Put it together, you got one. You put it all together, and you got. Okay, so you start playing with that. You got to get the tempo up, right? So you start kind of working with that. The cymbal for this because it just really cuts through really well. You could also put the hi-hat on the quarter notes just to sort of lock in the time, but I don't know that he does that. You certainly can. One of the cool grooves. I think it's a great groove to work with. Not just it's great in this song, but you can do a lot of sort of variations of it with a lot of different sort of cymbal patterns and move things around. I think I did something when I doubled the cymbal. Yeah, I did something like that. Sort of the double ride part. This one's straighter until the end. So, you can also double the beginning. Patterns. A lot of double right-handed with those goes. So get used to these patterns. But there you go. Check out the Steve Smith, the Ponte album, Enigmatic Oceans. That's the only album that Steve Smith appears on with Ponte. He later goes on with one of my favorite drummers of all time, and I've done I think a couple videos on him, but Rayford Griffin, who it's either Griffin or Griffith. I think it's Griffin. Rayford Griffin, one of my favorites. If you haven't heard of him, just absolutely fantastic. One of my favorites, right up there with anybody. I mean, I've stole more stuff from Rayford Griffin than probably, outside of Weckel, probably anybody else. I mean, I love his playing. It's powerful. It's got a groove to it. There's a lot of powerful drumming that doesn't groove. I'm not going to get into different genres of music, but some genres just groove more than others, and I think they appreciate groove more. And he's tremendous for power playing. Matter of fact, it's really one of the things that altered the course of my drumming is I went and saw Ponte at a show, and I was into Rush and Kansas and Yes and all the prog rock bands, and I saw Ponte, and the difference with Rayford was the groove, man. It was so powerful. The drumming was incredibly powerful. The effortless way he played, but the groove was so strong, much more than in the prog rock bands. So he had all the power and the chops of those guys, and I would argue even more. But he also had an infectious groove. I left there floored, and that's why I decided to move to California, go off to Musicians Institute, and get better, because I saw him and I thought, how do you get that good? I never achieved that level of goodness, but it's fun to aspire and to listen to those guys. So check him out. Check out Ponte in general. Just amazing playing all over the place. But there you go, Steve Smith. I'm going to play the intro now, and hopefully it doesn't get cut off so you can hear it. But it's the intro. It's the actual intro of the song, Enigmatic Ocean Part 2. There's a great towards the bottom, on the end of the tracks if you're on Spotify or whatever. I think there's a song called "The Struggle to the Turtle to the Sea" or something like that. And there's 3 parts. Part 1, 2, 3. It might even be 4 parts. But the last part, I think it's part 3. Steve Smith has some really good drumming, some great, little bit of a drum solo, sort of a vamp with some accents and things. Really good. Now you got to remember, this is young Steve Smith, so he's right out of college. So he's sort of ready to show off his chops, I would assume. And he demonstrates them pretty good. So that's a really fun song to check out. It's a little dated. It's got a little bit of that 70s kind of sound, but the drumming's still fantastic. But there is a little bit of that dated 70s kind of, I don't know, weird synth kind of. I don't know if they've defined that sound, but when you hear it, you'll kind of know what it is. But tremendous guitar playing, and the drumming's fantastic. So Steve Smith, Ponte. I'll try it one more time, and then we'll put it on. So again, play it slowly. Starts off. All right. Okay, so now we're going to take a listen to this beast called Enigmatic Ocean. That's the name of the album, and this one is Enigmatic Ocean Part 2. I want to say, let's see, there's Enigmatic Ocean Part 1, there's Enigmatic Ocean Part 2, and then there's Enigmatic Ocean Part 3, and then there's even Enigmatic Ocean Part 4, back in the day when they had these long passages. And then again, they did have, as I mentioned, in the video. They had the struggle of the turtle to the sea, part 1, struggles of the turtle to the sea, part 2, and the struggle of the turtle to the sea, part 3. We hope the struggling turtle made it to the sea, but maybe he didn't, and that's why there's not a part 4. We just don't know what happened to the struggling turtle, and since there's no lyrics, we just can only let our imaginations run wild. I'd like to think the little turtle made it to the sea. But anyway, it's funny because there's, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 songs, but 7 of them are with the same name, with just parts. So there you go. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, and Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. So this is the 70s. So we're going to play the groove from Steve Smith with that 16th note fill that opens it, called Enigmatic Ocean Part 2. Here we go. So that was sort of, that's the groove. So got a really good feel to it. Opens up kind of a powerful part. I'm going to play just because I can, if maybe I can. I'm going to go to the struggle to the birtle, the struggle to the birtle, the struggle of the turtle to the sea. Cool bass line there, by the way. That's a cool bass line. But there's a cool part. Holdsworth, I think it's Holdsworth, doing all this crazy soloing, and Ponte as well. And then Steve Smith has this little breakout part, and you could hear, I've seen him do these same fills. It's almost like you could hear him working on his solo via the Journey days. I could just see him playing these fills. So they must have been really sort of some of his go-to licks, you know, that he does in this section. It's kind of cool to hear it early on. So here is that section. I'll go back just a little, and then it starts. Here we go. Yeah, very cool stuff there. That would be a cool one to break down. There's a lot of good, tasty fills, and there's just some signature ones in there, I think, that he's used over the years. So that's a really good section to break down and look at. Well, maybe we'll do that one day. I really like the last fill. I think there's 4. I like the last one a lot and the first one. I mean, they're all really good, but those are the ones that sort of stand out. So anyway, have fun with that. Obviously, you don't have to play it at 160 beats a minute, although this is one of those grooves that does sound better a little faster. So not every song can be played at 120, or not every groove can play played at 120 and really kind of get the feel of what it's supposed to sound like. So for my students out there who hear me all the time say start it slow and bring it up, for my non-students out there, I'm going to tell you the same thing. Start it slow and build it up, because that's the best way to learn this stuff. So really to learn any of it. So, okay, practice, practice, practice. We'll see you next time. Ponte, Steve Smith. Have fun.